dude.
We're gonna be like more than a minute ahead of the chat though, probably. Oh, we're only about 30 seconds ahead of them according to OBS, but we'll let people filter
Alright.
in. Got one viewer.
So
Let's see if we can
it
top
hasn't popped.
43 viewers.
It hasn't popped up for me yet, so
Oh.
Banny boy?
Benny boy.
Banny boy.
Yeah, I'm an hour and a half late from when I said I'd be on. We were waiting on a pizza.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I was so it was my time to be really hungry.
It's alright. I was up late anyway. I was up like a half hour later, so even if we'd started before we waited on a pizza, we would have been like 45 minutes late.
Yeah.
Alright.
I mean, it's Friday though. So.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, we're about an hour earlier than we normally start. Hopefully that'll be better for all the European folks. And then Dax Rees. That's more than just Europe.
It's around 30 seconds, I would say. Delay, something.
Yeah,
around
I'm a filthy American. I generalize all of Europe when I refer to it.
Well, you're finding all these tiny nations that are just for, well, I want to say, almost want to say common knowledge to us Europeans, but it's sadly not the case.
They
that
are
those
all
countries exist.
culturally different. I mean, there's some similarities, but like Norway's nothing like Germany, which is, I mean, there's more in common between Germany and England, but they're different. And then you go into Eastern Europe, and they're nothing like any of the countries in Western Europe. And then Spain is completely different because of all the Moorish influence.
It's even like if you go to the margin of Europe, then you start getting really, really different.
And yeah, Sweden is like it's in its own little world.
Yeah, Sweden is just Sweden.
Sweden's
its own
Sweden.
planet.
It's not even Europe doesn't even want Sweden to be part of Europe.
Let's see.
See who made the art in the thought bubble. I did. It was one of my quick half-ass sketches I did like 2 weeks ago. Let's see if there's any questions already before we begin. I'm guessing all you guys can hear us, because yeah, I guess let's do our poodle check. Poodles, if you can hear all three of us.
You have to make like because I like your initial design, but I would love like a more elaborate one to kind of show the passing of time.
Oh yeah, her hair gets longer and stuff after she's been in Lavrina for. I think the whole Lavrina thing is gonna take place over like 2 or 3 years now instead of 1 year.
I think it's better, yeah. I think,
so none of them have had time to like groom themselves in 3 years, so they all have like long hair and they're all unkempt by the time the whole situation's resolved. You know, Link's beard is all crazy and Sarya's hair is probably like all long and stuff.
I mean, that's cool though. I actually don't think I've seen a lot of like fan Sarya designs, but I don't think I've seen one with her with having her with long hair, which is actually kind of weird thinking about it.
I've seen one with long hair, and it was like 10 years ago, and it wasn't like the best quality, but yeah, most of the fan designs of Sarya don't have long hair. Let's see, someone is asking. Oh, there's actually quite a few questions, so let me go through this. Let's see, Neph, I don't know why, but I've searched about Symphony of the Goddesses, or also the Sanctuary Church theme from A Link to the Past, and I couldn't find it. You might have better luck finding it if you if you put in A Link to the Past suite, because I don't think the Symphony of the Goddesses lists the tracks by like their individual names. It's based on like movements and suites for the games. So probably a more general search for A Link to the Past would probably bring it up, and it's probably mixed in there. I mean, sometimes they do individual tracks, like they have like just the Gerudo Valley theme as a separate thing for some reason. But yeah, let's see, what exactly are we talking about in this stream? Diox and I are going to continue, I guess, where we left off from Wednesday, and already YouTube is giving me connection issues. So I'll wait for it to stop throwing a fit for a second and make sure it doesn't kick me off. Well, now it seems like it's fine. Maybe it's just a little hiccup.
Someone had a little question about a mission, but
yeah, go ahead.
Take a look.
well, speaking of missions, I mean, do we even have a plan for missions in general? Like what chronological order we're gonna start with?
I'll probably be doing all the Fallen Sage missions first. We started the. In fact, I was even thinking like 2 weeks ago, instead of like mission 1 through 75, it's just gonna be each campaign is just its own set of missions with its own numbering, I guess. So the first Fallen Sage mission will be Fallen Sage mission 1 instead of just mission 30.
Honestly, you can split the Historia into parts, and then the individual missions can be chapters.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of doing. I might make like a fancy Hollywood style intro for each one.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like you can have, you know, a part, and then you can have chapter 1 Fallen Sage, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a very good format, and then we get less numbers, so it's easier to reference if people have a question, you know, about the cinematic or the gameplay thing. It's very easy to remember. It's mission 1 of the Fallen Sage.
Yeah. See, Tin Lee asks, before starting, how's Adam and Winker? I believe Adam's actually in the chat. I thought I saw him typing earlier. Yeah, he's in the chat. He asked also, when's Sigma gonna be done. I don't have an answer to that, sadly. As far as Wind Winker, I've talked to him on and off, but I think he's busy getting high on esoteric religions and Gnosticism and Kabbalah and stuff. So right now, he's in his own world. We'll see if one of these days I can bring Winker on. It's kind of hard to like be online at the same time as him because he seems to just come and go like the wind. That was. I think he's doing good. He hasn't said anything's bad. I think Windwinker is one of the most positive people actually in the Discord. He's always like laughing and he always seems positive. Hopefully he'll owe me $2.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, we might find out sometime in the next few months. I know E3 was canceled, but we might, I don't know, we might be getting more trailers, and depending on how what's presented in the trailer, I might win $2 from Windwinker and
more trailers.
I was about to say you can win $2 from Windwinker, and then you can give those $2 to me when I win.
Yeah, when you win, yeah.
Speaking of trailers, is this whole shenanigans with the trailer not being made, is that like a one-time thing, or are you planning on continuously not making trailers?
Depends on my mood.
That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's your own choice whether to make one or not. So
I still have a really good idea for the Labyrinth Fairy trailer. I
heard that's what you said, right? You said, "Oh, I have a really cool idea in mind, but
I can make one retroactively, like a month after they release." I don't know. It's because I don't think the trailers. I mean, I like the trailers, but they don't actually seem to bring a lot of people in. I guess like the Deku Scrub and Lizzlefoss one didn't really do anything.
No, okay. I mean, in that sense, it is fair that you would skip some of them.
Yeah, what I might do is when I finish, instead of doing one for like each, like the 2 factions, I'll do like a big one when I get all the factions done.
Oh yeah, that could be cool.
I mean, we're more than halfway through now. I mean, I know we've kind of postponed them a little bit because we're working on some other things, but there's only like, I think 6 factions left for the main game. I'm not counting all the Great Sea stuff and the Tweely, but there's the Stalfos and the Sheikah, the Wizrobes and the Oka, the Zolas, Volvagians. Which ones am I forgetting?
Akala.
Oh yeah, Akala. Aghanim I don't think is gonna make it, but he's probably getting replaced with the Yiga. So okay, there's 8. I guess there's more than I thought, but
What about those monkey dudes? What are they called again?
that's the Yiga. Well, they're not monkey dudes in Nephy canon, but you're probably thinking of the Yiga.
No, I'm thinking of the one that Iron Wolf was so into.
um.
Or
Oh,
Ikana.
Akana. Akana.
Yeah.
No, Akana's way far off. Sorry.
Iron Wolf
Sorry,
is
Iron
crying
Wolf.
somewhere.
Yeah. There's quite a few people that like Akana.
Well, are you gonna do a more general trailer like you did with the very first one you made for?
Yeah.
I was
I
about
believe that was 0.3.
I was about to suggest that maybe like a trailer for every release is a bit much, but like when you have a bit of content, that's probably a good time to make.
Yeah. And
the-
I mean, I have a good idea for a trailer for the fairies in Labyrinth, but I have zero ideas for like the Wizrobe and the Oka. I had no idea how I do a trailer for them. The Stalfos and the Sheikah would be pretty easy to do a trailer for, though. They already kind of have a antagonistic relationship with each other. But I don't know, I guess we're going way off topic with the trailer. I don't even think we've started the topic. What even was the topic?
The Civil War.
Oh yeah. We're talking about the second Hylian Civil War that I dumped into Nephy lore on Wednesday, and we kind of wrapped up the stream a little bit soon because I was starving.
We really got into. We were mainly talking about actually a lot of characterization, what drives characters, why it happens, good stuff like that. We didn't touch that much upon Akusu, and honestly, I think we could talk a fair bit more about the other characters.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can pick which one you want to start with, or
I guess we could start with Akusu because we already touched upon all the main players of that arc, and then we kind of left out for Akusu, and then we can, if people want us to go more in depth for the characters we talked about, already, we can do that. I think that's a fair way to start it.
He's probably a what?
I was trying to find some of the characters you talked about last stream on the wiki, but
they're not.
They're not on yet.
this is all pre stuff, right? This is
until like a week ago, Styla and Tuft were not in the game.
Yeah, because you guys were talking about them. It's like, who the fuck are these guys? I've never heard of them.
I'm not surprised you've never heard of Tuft or Styla. In fact, you're a good person for never hearing of them.
Yeah, you're uncorrupted.
So you were talking about Tetra having, relations with these people.
Yeah.
So they're not entirely pre yet, right? They are within the timeline of Link and Tetra.
Yeah,
they have to be.
Yes.
Okay. So when are they going to be brought into the story, or is this a full-on retcon?
It's retcon as Deox will probably interject. Retcon is technically not the right word to use because I've not actually made anything that I had originally planned yet. But I like to use the word retcon because it's funny. But basically, over the last 10 years, I had this plan of, how all the events and stuff happened, and then everything after Labyrinth about 2 weeks ago, I was just like, nah, I'm gonna toss all this out and do something a little different. So it's a future retcon. Preemptive retcon.
Oh, like it. Okay, so for which arc would this be in?
What?
After Labyrinth.
It's after Labyrinth.
Yeah, it's not a retcon, and honestly, most of it is just additions to the already existing lore. Like it's, I guess you could. I guess the criticism you could a criticism you could make is that this character should have been referenced earlier. As I tried to say in the Discord while this was done, while you dumped it on everyone.
While I broke everyone's brains.
Labyrinth is a very huge arc, and there's a lot of time to introduce stuff. It doesn't need to go into it, but there's a lot of time to touch upon future events that might happen or foreshadowing, right? There's a lot of time there that you can use. So if that's a problem, it's very manageable.
Yeah, I honestly
Uh,
there's a lot of stuff I'm probably gonna need to cut out of the Labyrinth. My document for the entire thing is like it's a mess and it's like 100 pages. There's so
I
much
thought you were going.
dialogue.
I thought you were going to interject this into an arc that was already
No.
cinematically
The
created
the
or something.
only
But
the
it's post.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I am when I eventually redo the Garuda Wars, it's gonna be like 10 times the size that it was. Um, the whole Ganon's invasion thing that I did like 4 years ago is probably gonna be a little bit bigger, and then the whole ancient part is gonna be the first Hylian Civil War. So yeah, I am like retconning a lot of stuff, I guess. The only thing that's not gonna get retconned is the Fallen Sage, and I probably will want to retcon it in 5 years.
I mean, some things are bound to change, especially going from. I think I said this. I'm not sure if I said this live on Wednesday, but I understand if you've been you've been around the project for a long time, then certain things that have been brought up. I was there as well, but I was never really bothered by things changing because I always thought it was kind of evident that, moving engines, it's kind of like a soft reboot with the same skeleton.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best way to treat it as. It's like a kind of soft reboot, but still the same like skeleton of it. Also because there's a lot of things you can do in Zero AD that was not possible in Hyrule Total War.
Yeah, especially once EXO got involved.
Yeah, right. So even then, like, again, if you were privy to spoilers in the past, and you say Neph, yeah, that's not gonna happen anyways. That's not a retcon. That's simply you changing your mind on something. That's not. I think that's if you're private information that is not in the game yet, that's kind of the nature of it, because like stuff that is not been decided on is always subject to change. That's just how it is.
No, obviously, that is the case. Now, I was confused as to where these characters were coming from and what part of the story they would play in.
Yeah, but
So,
so it's not something that is being added to previous like lore necessarily. It's something that is
okay.
going to be like introduced later on, which is I think is fine. And I'll say this entire arc sounds way more interesting than just the Tale of Two Swords. While the Tale of Two Swords didn't sound uninteresting, I just think this adds a lot more to.
Funnily enough, funnily enough, I have no idea what the hell to do with Fee and Girahim now, since I like nuked everything I'd planned. They're actually the two characters. I'm like, how the hell are they involved in a civil war now? So yeah, I need to figure out what the hell to do with that.
Were you still going to do that thing with the Gruda Wars and Bongo and the ritual?
Yeah, that has nothing to do with the future though. That's in the past.
No, okay, yeah, but I was still.
I mean, I like I said, I'll be retconning like all of the Garuda Wars whenever I get back to it. It's so terrible. Like the old anime. The other day I was even looking at part of the Fallen Sage animation. I'm like, the hair textures on Lana are terrible. They really need to be updated. It's so bad.
But you say that about everything.
I know, I do. I can't settle for, like, I would be a hypocrite if I did.
I'm just gonna add something, then I'll get back to it. Torstein, jeg norsk. De andre ikke norske.
I don't speak Viking.
No, someone asked how many Norwegians were on the project. I guess EXO is kind of like Norwegian. He's Dutch. It's close enough.
Close enough.
Close enough.
I can actually understand some of the words on there.
Yeah, there you go. Close enough.
Yeah. My ancestors are from Denmark, so
close enough.
I'm like a cousin to Viking, a distant cousin.
Close enough.
And then my other ancestors are from freaking Ukraine and East Europe, so I'm like Gypsy Viking. That's like one of the worst combos you could have.
Oh well.
Yeah, I did one of those genetic tests like a year ago, and I'm like 60% Eastern European and then 40% Scandinavian. I'm a Gypsy Viking.
But yeah, bringing this back to Heart of Conquest.
Yeah, sorry, I went way off topic again.
Yeah. Yeah, the arc, the Civil War arc is, you know, something that that is going to happen after Labrina. So it's not actually changing anything really in the past. I guess when you go back and redo old dialogue and stuff, I guess you could add stuff to it, but I don't think that's really a retcon in and of itself, because you're not really changing the pre-established story. You're just adding on to it.
I think the only retroactive thing would be again, it would be during the Gerudo Wars. It would be Rudo's father mentioning that he's arranged a marriage between Rudo and another character. That's like the only retroactive thing about it.
I mean, that's the thing though. Like, even if you add it, it's not technically a retcon, because that could still happen just off screen. I know that's kind of hand wavy, but it's right. It doesn't really. Like, I think retcon as a term is kind of like a buzzword.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, it means retroactive continuity, so I think it's an appropriate word when it's, you know, actually used in the right way. It's It's basically changing established continuity to something different. Yeah. I mean, Nintendo does that like all the time.
Honestly, most people do.
Yeah.
Like most creators. If you're into, like, I mean, you could look at a lot of fantasy authors, for example. That it's very obvious they didn't plan out everything when they started writing their first book, and they have, you know, actively added stuff.
Even Tolkien did it. Even Tolkien did it in The Hobbit. He completely redid the part with Bilbo and Gollum.
Yeah.
And he made it a little more ambiguous because of the context of Lord of the Rings. So even Tolkien was not immune to. Yeah, even Tolkien retconned.
Well,
although not to an insane degree though. He only tweaked a few things, but
I mean, as writers, a single human being, you can't account for everything that might happen or occur.
Oh, you're using my language now. you can't build a
that's
brass tower.
You cannot account for everything. There's always going to be something that you miss.
Yep.
Or something you would like to add in, like, oh, if I want that to happen and it has to make sense, then I should probably change that little tidbit over at the start of the story here. Otherwise, it would feel weird, or just wouldn't make any sense.
Let's see how.
Then I have to go back.
Someone's asking how many new Civil Wars are there now. There's only 2 Hylian Civil Wars. There's the ancient one, which they technically weren't called Hylians yet, so it's more like the Akalan Civil War. The Akalan Civil War happens after King Gustav is murdered, and then the lords of the various Akalan houses try to take the throne.
Actually,
Huh?
I want to interject as
Okay.
an asshole. Because I would actually argue that it's free, and that's because I feel like the main conflict between Gustav and their loyalists and, you know, Hansons is kind of separated from the Harkinians that come in later on.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I feel that you could say it's still the Akalan Civil War, but it's 2 individual conflict.
So you're saying it's something like the Starks and Lannisters, and then eventually it blows up and all the other houses get involved.
Yeah, because initially it's mainly, you know, Gustav and their loyalists, and then the Hansons, and later on, more people kind of enter the stage, and they feel like 2 separate conflicts.
Yeah, the Harkinians and Romes and the Daltons.
Yeah, Daltons. Like that's a bit later.
So doesn't that make it not a civil war if everyone gets involved?
No, it is a civil war because it's between a previously united state. So
Yeah.
it's still it's still a civil war because
If
they
you
were
want-
all
if-
previously.
Yeah, I mean, technically, it's. I guess if you want to be more specific, it's like a war of secession, or I can never say that word. Is it? Is it? Someone in the chat. Is it secession or succession?
It has to be succession.
Okay. It's okay. We don't know who's actually supposed to be on the throne, and we can't figure this out through law. So we're gonna just fight over. We're gonna fight over it until we figure out who's on the throne.
I think another difference is that, and honestly, that's something we should go back into the genealogy and find someone that was responsible for and actually establishing a set like laws of succession, because I think that's I think that was the main conflict, or the main cause during the Hylian Civil War, is that they didn't have a law.
Well, yeah, because Gustav was the only king. They probably hadn't codified. Yeah, they probably hadn't codified it yet. It's like. So he basically invented the position of king, and then he got assassinated, and they didn't know how the hell to replace him.
Like, the only concept of inheritance and succession they had was the one they had in their own individual families, but that doesn't really apply to a royal institution, right? So, and that's why there was such. Also, because everyone was tempted, everyone, Gustav came along and made this awesome new position, and everyone wanted that.
Yeah. I do find it funny. He basically invented kingship.
would you argue that Gustav is kind of like an Alexander the Great in the fact that he creates
he's not.
Empire?
No, I wouldn't. I would not say he's Alexander the Great is a conqueror. He wasn't really a domestic leader. He was
No, okay, but.
Gustav didn't go out and conquer. He stabilized a chaotic area that needed stabilization. He's more like a King David.
But that's what Alexander did as well. He created an empire that knew it would never last, and then when he died, he felt so arrogant about it that he said to his generals, in terms of inheritance, he said it should go to the strongest, and he knew that would create a huge civil war and would completely fragment his empire. That's what happened at the end.
That's not what Gustav does, though. Gustav doesn't want a huge civil war at all. He gets assassinated.
He doesn't really have a choice in it. Like, I think if he were to live, he would just, keep it hereditary and make sure that. But the thing is, he already made a big mistake by marrying a foreigner, right? That's the point where he messed up, because I imagine that when he was recognized as a king.
You actually just answered my question I asked last night about Link marrying a foreigner.
Yeah.
He's got to repeat the mistake of his ancestor.
Right, because that's the moment, even if it didn't happen immediately, the moment Gustav didn't take a Colin noble wife, that's when he messed up. And from that point on, his kingdom was doomed to fall to a civil war. He didn't build any proper alliances, and the few alliances he had, he managed to piss off. So
most of his allies were foreigners, like the Wind Tribe.
The moment he dies, like no one is going to trust or would want his wife and that kid on the throne.
Exactly right. So
he didn't even legally marry. He didn't even legally marry Sirach too. It's like. He did so many stupid things.
Wait, what? Sirach was his wife?
Yes. Well, technically they never got married, so I guess she's not his wife, but Gustav had children with Sirach.
But she left.
I know she did. Right? Poor Gustav.
It's like she came in the cinematic. She came to him like, "Hey, can you help us leave?" It's like, "Yeah, sure. You should leave. You should just go."
Because he's an honorable dude. He'll do whatever she says. That's why he got assassinated. He was too good of a king.
I honestly think that his closest friends that would later, betray his ass, they probably came up to him and be like, what you're doing is really dumb, and I have a proposition for you. And because he I think he was so honorable he didn't even realize that he didn't even consider the opportunity that he would be betrayed in that sense, right? Because he didn't fall. I guess he wouldn't have the heart for that, right?
Yeah.
And
Poor
I
Gustav.
do, yeah, and I do think that the people that did warn him, they grew more and more agitated by his ignorance, right? And that's not a good recipe at all.
Nope.
Yeah. He wasn't able to project into, put himself into other people's shoes and see it from their perspective, because
Yeah,
he didn't have that mindset at all. It's like, why would anyone do that? That seemed illogical. Like, to
yeah,
him, it seemed illogical to do that.
I mean, there's if you go through history, there's all kinds of stories of kings marrying a foreign queen, and then their civilization falls apart soon after. My favorite will always be King Solomon.
yeah.
He married like over 200 foreign queens, and well, not all of them were queens, but he married the Queen of Sheba, and he did it to amass the wealth and resources to build his temple in Jerusalem. But after he married so many foreign women, like their cultures basically overwhelmed his own culture, and it collapsed.
Damn.
So
I think like
there is a pattern of kings. But the thing is, marrying a foreigner can actually. There are situations where it's a positive thing, like
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
if you've
I
been
was
at
about
war
to
with a
say-
foreign nation. So
That's
it's
what I
not
was
always
about
a
to
negative
say.
thing. It depends on the
That's why
context.
So here's the thing: if Gustav was clever, right, he would do what kings usually do. He would have lots of children, and he would marry to build an alliance network. And that's the point where you can marry into foreign nations, is to have children.
Yeah.
So your heir, you make sure that your heir marry within the nation, so that you can establish the loyalty or of the most powerful family that's not yours, right?
Yeah.
And then your other children you can marry to other families to amass more influence. And that's why you tend to the heir is usually married to someone very powerful within the nation, while the younger children are married off to other families. So sometimes don't even marry outside the nation, but that's the ideal situation.
Yeah, it looks like YouTube is
Yeah.
complaining
Well,
again.
That is a huge shout out to Isabel I of Spain, right there.
There you go.
Oh yeah, Isabel the First. Yeah.
She basically did exactly that. She married all her daughters out to Portugal, England, I believe, also Holland and Belgium, to one of the Habsburgs, I believe.
Yeah. And
that was actually, her daughter was the first wife of Henry VIII, I believe.
Honestly,
Because-
if I had,
Yeah, she will.
like,
yeah.
yeah, like that's the thing though. If Gustav was, and I don't blame him for it, because he's not a bad person. Obviously, he wasn't a bad person. It's just that he didn't have the kind of head for that, and that's
Well, he's
that's
also
normal.
like the literal first king. He has no.
Yeah.
The experience doesn't really. The wisdom of that kind of culture doesn't really exist yet. Like there hasn't been kings before him who've been an example of. I mean, I guess you could argue, well, their families were doing similar things on the familial level before that, so he should have had an idea. But Gustav, yeah, he's not the best king.
Honestly,
he's a general.
Honestly, if he was, and that didn't happen, but in an ideal situation, I would say his best bet would to marry either a New Hansen or an Harkinian or a Dalton or something like that, right? Have kids, and then he would kids with those families, and he would marry those kids to the other remaining, powerful families. That's ensuring his legacy.
Yeah.
Because that's, and if he did that, the Civil War might have not happened in the same way at all.
Yeah. The thing is, Gustav, again, he didn't even marry Sirach, so his motivation wasn't even political. He just wanted to bone Sirach. It was a simple man. He didn't care. But he must have known there was something bad about it because he kept it a secret. So in his heart, he knew what he was doing was dangerous.
So why was Sirach agreeing to it all?
Why not? She probably had similar motivations as him too. She just, and
Like the guy.
what? Yeah.
She just like the guy. She wasn't thinking politically either. I don't think she would think politically if you look at
No,
her
well,
character.
the Wind Tribe are also kind of different.
Tribal.
Well, yeah, they are. It's in their name.
And here's the thing though. Even though they weren't officially married, she's getting a great deal because she's boning the most powerful person, arguably the most powerful person on the
The Slayer of Solcaris.
Right? Yeah,
literally saved the world.
So Gustav is really the one is really the losing party in that arrangement, not her, because she's benefiting from it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and she doesn't even have. Well, I guess she does kind. Well, no, she doesn't have to raise her kids.
No.
That was a bad idea too. Well, she raises one of them, but
are the Wind Tribe genetically different from the Hylians?
No, they all come from the Kabul.
Yeah,
if you go back far enough.
Different ethnicity. Yeah, they're different ethnicity, but they're still Hylians.
Yeah,
you know, the both of them.
But we were gonna talk about another civil war.
Yeah, we ended up talking about a completely different civil war than the one we're gonna talk about.
No, but I think it's actually, I don't think it's unrelated because like a lot of stuff in, well, real life, but also in Hyrule Conquest, there are mirrored patterns, right?
Yes.
Things that repeat. So having understanding of what happened during the first Civil War can give better insight to what's actually going to happen.
If I can quote George Lucas, it's like poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah.
There is truth to that, though. Oh, someone in the comments mentioned Eleanor of Aquitaine. Yes, Eleanor of Aquitaine is she's actually one of my favorite historical figures, and there's a lot of hilarity surrounding her. But yeah, she was a French monarch that was it her second or third husband that she married into the English, and then she sired Richard the Lionheart.
Yeah,
but Eleanor of Aquitaine is like, if you're one of those people desperate to find like that weird like really strong female historic figure, she's like one of them. She insisted on participating in the Crusades, and I can't remember where exactly it was, but there was one point where like they lost this battle and they blamed it on her luggage line. Because her servants were carrying too much luggage, and they blamed the loss of the battle on her and her luggage line, and they tossed all her luggage over the cliff. She got pissed.
She has ties with the Plantagenet dynasty, I believe, right?
I'm drawing a blank.
I believe so. Wasn't she the one with a nickname that had something to resemble with a wolf? Or was that someone else?
I don't think that was her.
There was one English woman around, I believe, somewhere between the 10th and the 12th century. Who had
she wasn't English. She was technically French.
No, she was technically French, but she married.
Yeah, she married into England.
I gotta look it up now.
Yeah, but
are you thinking of are you thinking of the she-wolf?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't think that's Eleanor of Aquitaine.
No, that
was someone else.
That's Isabella.
Of Spain?
No, France.
No.
Isabella of France.
Oh, okay.
She's, if I don't, I might be misremembering, but she is usually known as...
Someone in the comments will probably know.
This is not my field. So...
I think you are right. Isabella of France.
Okay, yeah, I'm like that doesn't. I don't remember anything about wolves and Eleanor.
Then I'm just
she's more connected to the Court of Love, which is actually no historical evidence the Court of Love was a real thing.
Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of mirrored patterns in the modern Civil War, and things are actually what things that cause it. There's that pattern of marrying for love, usually. People in power marrying for love usually leads to disaster, right? There's that.
Yeah. Though that's how Link kind of corrects the mistake. Is he actually? Oh, I guess you could argue if it's actually the right thing, but he does marry. He unites the two houses properly. Because, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Although he does actually love Tetra, so I guess it works out for him.
I think we actually had an interesting discussion about it. It's not that he doesn't love Tetra, but I do think that he loved Malin, but I think he loved the idea of what Malin is more, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, she's probably more relatable to him.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So I think the moment where, you know, she's out of the picture, that's kind of when that dream died with her, right?
Yeah.
And that's the point where he's like, yeah, I have to play my role. And that's another theme, that if you do not play the role you're sort of fated to play, then things go poorly.
Yeah.
I guess, and I think that's kind of the point where like he did marry Tetra, but not in the way he'd probably prefer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, which is its own tragedy, really. So things, you say things work out for him, but I don't think they do. But
I mean, they don't work out in like a peachy perfect way, but like.
No, I know what you mean. But
yeah.
I do think if.
But he doesn't like.
Way.
He's not like a complete and utter failure, and he's not like remembered with dishonor for all of history. But I guess he doesn't die happy. But again, I don't think happiness is necessarily the goal of happy. Like the search for eternal happiness is like an incredibly modern concept.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is that him marrying Tetra is more out of duty than it is love, even though love is a part of it, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I hesitate to say one way or the other. I actually feel like it's both, which is why it's the right decision for him.
That's why it's different from someone like Malin, right?
It's not entirely out of passion, I guess. Yeah, or Malin is like it would be a decision of passion.
Yeah.
Although I do suspect his father would probably have approved of Malin, had she not died.
Yeah.
Because she's not. I mean, she's technically not a royal, but the Gustavs didn't necessarily, because of their situation, they didn't necessarily marry two royals. They just wanted. I don't know. It's kind of confusing, but. They
married people of character.
Yes. They married people they thought that could participate in the preservation of the Gustav line and their traditions and stuff. And Malin would. Well, I mean, you'll see it. She is committed to that, which is why Link's like, okay, cool. I don't have to break your heart like Rudo and Saria. So after we get back from Laverna, I'll take you back to Galatia and we'll figure this whole thing out. And then she dies.
Feels bad, dude.
Yeah, spoilers, everyone.
Yeah. I mean,
this whole stream is nothing but spoilers, so.
Oh yeah, another parallel is that with Araya and Daphnis. There you go.
Well, yeah. I mean.
It takes a while for it to come. It takes time for it to come back and haunt everyone, but it does happen. There is that theme that sketchy, right?
Well, yeah, because Akazu uses that against them.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And obviously, why Akazu is kind of on the, I would say he's kind of on the deep end at that point.
Yeah.
You know, we did establish that if things went another way, he probably would have become a decent king, right?
Yep. Again, the tragedy of it. He probably would have been a good king. Probably not the best king, but he knows how to manage people under him. I mean,
yeah.
He's politically savvy.
He knows the law.
He knows he's like a lawyer king, or he would have been a lawyer king. He's obviously not a king. Well, I guess technically he does temporarily become a king. Spoilers. Someone asked, why is every stream of you I watch only spoilers? It's not every stream, it's just the last two streams. I even have in the description of the video that this is just going to be... Basically, the purpose of this stream is to kind of flesh out a part I'm grafting into Hyrule Conquest that wasn't there. Like 2 weeks ago, scrapped everything I had planned for a certain segment. I'm basically redoing it from scratch, and none of it's really fleshed out. And instead of Deox and I just like fleshing it out on the side like we normally do, we thought it'd be interesting to do it in a live stream so other people could, I don't know, observe, I guess, or listen.
I mean, get insight to the creative process, I guess, which is kind of interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's fun. I'd love that. Obviously, but keep in mind again, and as Nephy jokingly said in the last stream, nothing is really, decided. Things might change. It hasn't happened yet. It's still, a draft.
Tin Lee asks, how did you come up with the name Lear? Also, can you kill Tetra so Lear can smash Link in the bar? Well, Lear is actually not my character. I did not come up with that character. Lear was created by one of my oldest friends from 15 years ago now? I don't really talk to them anymore, but they actually created the character before I even made the Fallen Sage game. So Lear is actually not my character. I don't know how they came up with the name. I don't think I ever asked them how they came up with the name. As far as killing Tetra, no. Although I guess we can get into spoilers. There was a plan that
you can spoil big things that are no longer.
Okay,
game,
well,
right?
we'll spoil big things. There was three possible. I think there's three different possible ideas of kind of how Hyrule Conquest comes to an end. The first one involved time travel, which I don't want at all. But basically, the idea was in the future, Link and Tetra have a child, and then Tetra dies, and then I think we decided she died in childbirth, and then Link is devastated over that, and then Link marries Lear, and they raise the child, and then the child basically goes back into the past to warn Link and Tetra to never have a child. I'm pretty sure that's not gonna be the case because I hate time travel. I think the moment you introduce time travel into something, it opens a Pandora's box where your work will inevitably devolve into chaotic mush. So I'm pretty sure we're not gonna go with that, but that was one of the possibilities. Another one was Tetra just dies and there's no time travel thing. it's basically the first thing, but without the time travel. Tetra just dies, and then Link ends up marrying Lear, and then they raise the daughter, and then disaster comes from that.
Why does he go for Lear though? Like, what significance is in?
Well, that leads to the third one, which I was actually discussing with Deox literally yesterday. I was like, there really isn't any political reason he'd marry Lear because she's not even nobility, and
no,
we were thinking maybe Midna would make more sense.
Midna?
Yeah.
Not even part of the story yet.
But she is at that point.
Yeah. She's been in the story for quite a while.
The problem with Midna though is I redesigned her to be a 10-foot tall lanky X-Files alien.
Yeah. I was about to bring it up. I don't think Link would find that quite appealing.
Exactly. So I'm kind of in a little bit of a prison there. I got myself stuck there.
So if there's no political reason for him to do so, at least there has to be a personal reason to do so. I would say.
I honestly stand by the argument I made originally, is that I don't think at that point in his life he would care that much, and it would kind of signal his
descent.
Yeah, I don't think he would care at that point, really. I think
so he's starting to live up to his Gustav reputation.
Yeah.
I guess in that case, then Lear would make sense because Lear is tied to Siroc.
And it's not only that, but they have chemistry, right? So,
they do have a little bit, yeah.
And at that point they've known each other for a very long time as well. That's another I still think at that point, sure, there's no political motive, but I don't think at that point he would care. Because
right, and that leads to his downfall.
But still, let me rephrase the question. Why Midna?
Well, there would be political reasons for that to unite the Tweely back to Hyrule, which then the whole Tweely storyline, it's all kind of about that.
Because I can, like I said, I couldn't see from Midna's perspective either why she would.
Basically, what happens is when, and this was the case before I decided to inject the Civil War, because in the original story, Tetra still gets exiled and she has to retake the throne from Hylia. During that, Midna basically makes Midna and Link have an oath. If I help you retake Hyrule, you will help me retake the Twilight Throne. So Midna and her exiles help Tetra and Link retake Hyrule, and they're still gonna do that even in the Civil War. And then the Tweely storyline involves her having Link keep up his end of the bargain. You know, you're gonna help me retake my throne from Zant.
And well, Link is an honorable dude.
Yeah, so yeah, he lives up to his oath.
He will do that. That's probably why she can trust him, or because that's why she thinks she can trust him. But she also, why does she believe that Link is like a viable person to ask this of?
Because she witnessed him like conquer Hyrule.
Fair enough.
She witnessed him amass Gorons and Zora and Oka and all these races to destroy all of his enemies and retake the throne. Well, I guess he's not retaking the throne because he wasn't on it in the first place, but to secure the throne for him and Tetra. So she's like, yeah, this guy, you know, he's... And then after that, he has the whole kingdom of Hyrule. She's like, yeah, he can use his armies to help me dethrone Zant.
Is Zant an antagonist though?
Yes. Just yes.
Where are the thumbs up for my boy Zant?
Zant has like always been an antagonist.
But I back to the thing with Link. I honestly think that you know, speaking of his character, obviously this is far off and nothing is really ever decided. But my interpretation is that he would not care at all.
Wait, what? Wait, say that again.
No. Going back to Link, right?
Okay, I thought you were talking about Zant for a minute there. I'm like, why are we? What? No. I didn't hear the Link part.
Even though this is far off, and you know anything can change really, so that's why I would say again. I repeat, this is not set in stone. Please don't be mad.
Yeah, the ending scenario has been in flux because I've never been satisfied with it. So, well, the thing is, I am certain the ending will involve Link and Tetra having a daughter and some kind of schism between Link and Tetra. That part I'm satisfied with. I haven't put in stone how that's going to play out exactly because I was really dissatisfied with the time travel angle.
Yes. Yeah. But I thinking about what leads up to this and all the things that transpired between then and now, I really don't think Link would care about having a political motive at that time.
I'm not opposed to it. It would just be him living up to his family's name, the dark side of his family's name, I guess.
Honestly, okay. and considering all the shit he's been through, right? I just think at the point he wouldn't care.
Just like Gustav, screw this politics. I wanna screw a wind lady from the sky. Seriously, it mirrors Gustav like almost perfectly.
I think there's a difference leading up to that though, because I think Gustav initially like Gustav kind of did it out of ignorance because he didn't have the wisdom to make the right decision, right? While Link probably has the wisdom.
Well, he literally married wisdom.
Yeah, but
and then wisdom died, and he lost it.
Exactly right.
I love it.
And I think why it's not just because, you know, wisdom dies, it's also because at that point he just doesn't care.
Or even if we go with the sleep angle, wisdom went to rest. It went to sleep, and then he lost his wisdom. He does some stupid stuff.
Honestly,
I love the symbolism.
I was going to say this when we discussed it yesterday, but even with the sleep angle, I would still say like a very long coma, you're functionally dead. I know that's very
no sleep is connected to death in symbolism. Yeah. Like it's functionally, not functionally,
I'm
but it's
I'm
symbolically the same thing. It's like a little
sorry
death.
yeah, I'm sorry to say, but in most cases where people that are married and the one party goes into coma that lasts for years, the other person tends to move on. It's
But
sad, but
Link
that's
is super honorable. He
yeah,
decapitates
honor.
people.
Honor has an expiration date.
Oh man.
For Link, well, Link at least has a reason to go into the alliance, right? Because
Yeah.
both parties get something from it. But for Link, like after the bargain is said and done, the only reason why he would stay with Midna is for the alliance. Like I don't does he even still have? He already has a daughter, right? Does he still have a good reason to like forward his generation?
Well, yeah.
I mean,
Because
just good optics.
Yeah, but having one child as a king is terrible.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But
So here's the thing, though. They have a daughter, and since they're matrilineal, I guess he has an heir. So that's good, but he should have more in case she dies.
Yeah.
But that's kind
Wouldn't
of the
that-
point. Like you never
but
have one kid as a king or a queen. That's
any children he would have with Midna, they would also have a claim to the Twilly throne.
yeah. But we haven't fleshed out a Hylian law, but I actually think that Tetra and Link's daughter would still have the stronger claim because she's the elder daughter. Yeah, she's also the elder daughter, and she's also the daughter of the actual Hansen.
I also
queen.
think that's why, hypothetically, if there was a marriage between the Hylians and Tweely, it wouldn't go over as badly as Gustav and the Wind Tribe, because Link does have a pure Hylian heir. So they'd be like, oh, okay, well, she's the heir to the Hylian throne, and then his other children with Midna, they can take the Tweely throne, whatever. Although that would probably be bad for the Tweely, because Midna has no heirs. So, yeah, I guess that would actually backfire more on Midna than it would Link, but... So, I don't know, I could see political reasons for that, but I don't know, I might end up just going with him, just not giving a shit at that point, and taking after Gustav and... Sky Lady. Sky Lady pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lear is then basically out of the picture. If you would go for that, or are you gonna?
No, she would.
No,
be the better
Lear would
option
still
for
be
him.
involved.
She is not the good political. The thing is, Lear makes the best emotional choice, but a terrible political choice.
Well, yeah,
And I
she
think
has
that's
no
fine.
kingdom. The Oka are
Yeah.
basically literally crumbling at that point, and she herself is not of noble blood at all. She's a Sheikah. So
Well,
yeah, it would be really bad optics for Link in regards to all the other nobles and the people if he married her.
Yeah.
They'd be like, "What the
Well,
fuck, dude?" They might give him a little bit of leeway because again, he does have an heir.
Yeah, and he is also still the hero king, right? So
Yeah, so it probably wouldn't go immediately as badly as it did for Gustav, where they're all like, "Okay, let's assassinate this asshole for, having children with this strange foreigner." They'd probably be like, well, Link, he has an heir. He kind of saved us all. He's done all his great stuff. Fine, he can have his concubine, whatever.
But here's the thing, though.
I mean, they
There's
probably
actually
would still see Lear really negatively, even if, they had a legal
Probably,
marriage.
yeah.
But they'd probably treat her more like she's part of his harem or concubine than his actual wife, which is really
Yeah.
sad. But that's
Well,
how that culture would probably treat her, because she's a weird foreigner from the sky.
she does reign over the Oka, right?
Yeah, but the Oka are they're basically gone and destroyed by then. Their whole kingdom has fallen. It's literally fallen from the sky.
I was gonna say though, we are giving Link a lot of bad rep, but actually there's a positive to it, and that's because we know that Lear, unless you want to change that, or she's a good stepmom, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah,
Right?
she basically raises
that's
his
a
daughter.
positive. Yeah, that's a positive. I mean, I gotta give the guy some slack, even though he's a bitter asshole. I guess he did that thing right.
Yeah, there's a
think-
distinct possibility that we'll stick with the Lear angle, but there's a possibility of Midna, as weird as that is at this point. The thing,
I think either can work, but I think it. I just don't think Link would care about politics
yeah.
at that point at all. He did his part, right? He's kind of. Honestly, I think we had this. Me and a few other people on Discord, we had this discussion. At that point in the story, he's not Link as the Link we know him anymore. He's fulfilled his kind of part, and he's just kind of a remnant, which is kind of sad to think about.
That does happen to everyone eventually that lives long
yes.
enough. You become a remnant of the past. Again, not necessarily a bad thing. That's just how time works. Like, you become irrelevant eventually.
But that's.
I mean, even historical figures that are famous, like, especially when it comes to like music and art and stuff, usually they're not even famous in their lifetime. It's long after they're dead and they're rediscovered that they become famous. Yeah. Like Van Gogh is a great example. Like, everyone fucking hated Van Gogh when he was alive, and then like 50, I don't know the exact number of years, but after he was dead, his impressionistic art became really popular. But during his lifetime, everyone thought Van Gogh was like, I mean, he was kind of a terrible person. He had a lot of mental issues, but I don't know, it's kind of strange that in modernity you can write Game of Thrones, and like even Tolkien wasn't popular. Like, I mean, he was popular in the later part of his life, but when the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit like were first released, he was like, his friends made fun of him and stuff. No one gave a shit about Tolkien until he was an old fart. But it's kind of a strange world right now where you can just write Game of Thrones and be instantly popular like during your lifetime. It's kind of unusual.
The thing is, symbolically, that's the thing about roles, is that you play your role and then you shed your mask and someone else takes it up. And that's just kind of the process of everything, that your role in the grand play is not permanent.
Well, I already know who takes up the mask of Link after. But you know too, because it's how I wanted Twilight Princess to end.
So, but that's the thing, that at that point,
a character we've actually barely talked about.
I actually want to talk about it, but probably not in this stream.
Oh, okay.
Because but I agree, we should.
We'll talk about a certain Ordanian another time.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the same with that I touched upon in one of the earlier streams. I think it was the last one, not part one of this one, but before that, with Hylia. Very good example in Hyrule Conquest of that.
Someone actually just brought her up in the chat, wanting to see her life before she became Hylia as she is, which we will get to see that at some point. But go on about Hylia.
Yeah, it's like she, like Link, she was once a different kind of character. And when I say character, I'm talking about embodiment, right? She embodies a concept and later on sheds that concept, but someone else picks up the role she played. That's how it always will go. That's how it always will be. In her case, it's kind of on the nose, especially if you take her earlier design into consideration. It's very on the nose. I like it though. But that's how it works. And going back to Link about that, that's kind of what happens to him too. He fulfilled his role. He played it well, but it has to come to an end, and someone else has to take up that character and play it.
Yeah.
And usually, symbolically, in mythology, when that happens, the character that used to be a hero is kind of like a husk.
Yeah, they usually just die, but
they either die or become very subverted of what they used to be, because they're no longer that person.
Yeah. I mean, the story of King Saul and King David.
Yeah. And that's why
King Saul becomes the villain, even though he was technically a protagonist initially.
Actually, one of my favorite depiction of that is in a lot of Nordic sagas, because we follow the hero character through this entire embodiment span, and they have very many examples where they always show the hero, or usually in the later years of his life, and he's always like bitter, weak, angry. He's nothing like the person he was in his youth, and usually they die in really dumb ways.
You're basically justifying The Last Jedi.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, kind of the natural.
Oh, I mean, even King Arthur after Mordred, after he finds out on Mordred, like King Arthur becomes like a really bitter, terrible old man.
Yeah.
And then he's carried off, across the ocean because he no longer embodies the king anymore. Although there is that concept in the story that he'd return someday and restore the role he's supposed to play, but.
I think a different interpretation of that is that he will return, but not as the same person. Someone else playing the person he.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And you see this in Zelda as well. I would say one thing that is always consistent with Zelda is the idea of themes, and also how roles, because Zelda is a role. Like
yes.
You don't talk. We talk about a specific Zelda, but we also talk about Zelda as a character archetype.
I really need to make those cosmology videos. I really need to.
So, for example, we can talk about Link in a more broad sense, but that's just the archetype Link. We're not talking about a specific Link from a specific game. They're all different people embodying the same archetype, and that's kind of okay. So now I'm starting to ramble, but basically
it's okay. It's
Yeah,
part of the
consider
show.
Yeah, it's part of the show. I'm rambling now, but to make it simple, or should I say to paraphrase, imagine that it's like passing along a torch. And while you hold the torch, you are a specific thing, and once you pass it on, you're no longer that thing. And
go on. I have a way I think I could describe this, but go on. You first.
Yeah. Or you can look at it as a mask. I like to use the Batman example, for example, where we all talk about, again, like Link, we all talk about Batman as an archetype, but there are different variations of that specific character.
This is how humans basically see the entire world, which is, for whatever reason, modernity has forgotten about it. But basically, how can I describe this? I'm trying not to use the word principality because I know that's not a useful word, and I guess archetype is the better word to use. But basically, humans see the world as a bunch of personalities that exist in the abstract. Like when someone says United States of America or someone says France, in your mind, you're conceptualizing a generalized personality. And then all the people that are under that personality or that principality or that archetype inform that generalized kind of conception that you're imagining. So like when someone's... What the hell was that?
That was me.
What the hell is that? What was that? Did Deox just get abducted by a UFO?
But isn't that whole concept what you're talking about the entire reason why I know it's a very stupid example, but these flag memes, where they use flags as representatives.
That's a flag. It's a symbol. It's the symbol. Like when you see a flag, that's the symbol that brings all of the parts of a principality together, and then that's how you identify it. That's what symbolism is. It's not like that complicated. It's just
because you don't think of the flag as well, you kind of see it as a person, I suppose, or as like a single entity. But
yes.
Obviously, like the flag itself isn't an entity by
itself.
No,
the flag is the symbol that invokes the entity.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, Nintendo actually made I think you've seen it. Have you seen that art piece that actually perfectly embodies what we're talking about? I'm not sure it's not what they meant, but I can't
is it the one where he's handing the sword off?
Yes.
I hate that. I symbolically, yes, okay, but I still hate that piece of art because I don't think they're aware of it, but maybe they are. I don't know. We'll never know for certain.
Thing is, even regardless of the context, that kind of perfectly encapsulates the idea.
Yeah. Basically, what I was trying to say through my example is because the nation is a modern example of this. That humans, I think, still modern people can still kind of get oh yeah, we do that with countries. We see the country as a generalized personality, and then the sum of all the people in the country and their personalities inform that generalized entity, whatever. That's the case for everything. You see it with companies too. When we talk about Nintendo, we don't talk about every single individual employee at Nintendo. We talk about Nintendo collectively as an entity. The law treats companies as a distinct entity. Like, this is how human psychology works. And this works for like characters like Link. Link is an abstract, disembodied, I'm trying not to use the word spirit, but that is the right word to use, but he's this abstract being, and then there are particular individuals that reflect the properties of that being in their actions. And then as they do that, people see them as that abstract identity. Like, if someone on Earth right now dressed up as Link, dressed up as him and acted like him and went and, you know, did his stupid babble speak and was heroic and noble, you would cease to see the particular identity of that person, and you would see Link. Obviously, there's flaws, but that's because the particulars sometimes infect the abstract identity. So you would still, that person behaving perfectly as Link or whatever, there would still be some flaw in his depiction. Like, you'd still recognize, okay, this isn't exactly Link, but the thing is, you see that in the games too. Each Link in each different game has their own particularities that infect the abstract identity. That's how human psychology works. I feel like I probably just confused everyone even more, so I'll stop.
Probably.
Probably.
Like, bringing this back... Yeah, bringing this back to the Link when, you know, with the Lear, at that point, to just be, you know, kind of direct, he's not Link anymore.
Yeah.
Not the Link that we know.
He's more Gustav than Link at that point, probably.
Yeah.
So, what mask does Link wear that will have to be re-equipped, so to say, by other people?
The Mask of Link.
Only the Mask of Link.
I
That's
guess
it?
no. I guess a better way to, if you want to be very, obviously you can't name it, but I guess it would be the ordering hero archetype.
Right. That's what I was thinking as well. Like, he's been acting out this quote-unquote hero type in the world, or at least for Hyrule.
Yeah, it's the
And so with
and
him,
honestly,
someone else.
Yeah, and someone else has to take. They have to take up that role when he's finished. When, you know, his role is fulfilled, someone else has to take up, the mantle.
And then people would start to see the identity of Link in that person.
Yeah, and as they embody that role,
they take Link off to Avalon. He'll return someday in Ordana.
Yeah, it's like as you know, the role is passed on, the new individual will graft onto some of their own to that role, and that's how it changes.
Seems like people in the comments, at least they're saying they understood my explanation, but honestly, the best way to understand how humans see the world is it's like a giant play, and we're all actors in a play, and we're constantly shifting between different parts in the play. We put on different masks and take on different roles, and, you know, obviously sometimes we have more than one mask on. You usually have the mask of your family, the mask of your city, the mask of your nation, the mask of your ethnicity, and then you have your own particular mask that is all your particularities, and those identities can be assumed by other people after you die, or even while you're still alive. Like, that's how reality works. But, like, we live in, like, a time where we don't the thing is, we do still see the world like that, but we try to, like, the world is, like, really materialistic now. It's like we deny the reality of, like, the higher identities because we're so obsessed with, like, the physical components.
So, we live in a society?
Yeah, we live in a society. The Joker is a great example too of the identity thing.
I know it's very easy. So, like, when I say he's not Link anymore at that point, it's very easy to get caught up in that concept. He's still Link. He's just not the Link.
He's not.
So,
he doesn't embody the principle of Link.
Yeah, and, and if I'm gonna like you asked, like, so what kind of mask is he wearing? And yeah, I would actually just say it's the archetype. You don't even just see it in Hyrule Conquest or Zelda in general. You see it everywhere. It's the ordering hero archetype. One of the most common archetypes in storytelling.
King David.
But if Link's motivations change, which is what you're saying, right? You're saying he's not the Link anymore he used to be.
Yeah.
He's still technically Link.
Yeah. He's still
in the context, yes.
Yeah.
He's just not a very good Link.
Yeah, but he basically put some masks away. It's like he's not wearing them anymore. He's like, oh, I'm kind of done with that mask.
Yeah, and they'll fail to see him as that person that created the identity of Link because he's not living up to that anymore. He's living out a different identity.
He's going on the personal lustful motivation mask this time.
Yeah, which seems to be more in line with his great really great grandfather Gustav.
But I think it's because he has that arrogance about him. I mean, you need to have that form of arrogance if you want to wear the hero archetype mask. Obviously, you need to have some of that. And at some point, he was probably like, "I'm just kind of done with all of this BS going on, and I constantly have to deal with all of this despair. And now I just want to live for my own." That's what he's saying.
I will also argue that because Link has embodied that archetype is a metaphysical element of the world. It's that will always resurface at some point, because that's kind of how these archetypes work. They will always resurface. They exist kind of.
They can't die. They're like, you can't kill the concept of tyrannical king. You can't kill that principality. You can't kill that demon. You can't kill that god. It always exists, and it will always find a way to manifest.
Like saying that he has less Link but more Gustav, I will also make the argument at some point Gustav was also embodying the ordering hero archetype. And he put the mask away.
Yeah, it's not like an all or nothing thing. Like I was saying earlier, it's not like you put on one mask and you're just that. We have multiple identities that we wear, and they blend into each other, and they infect each other. It's like a living organism almost. There's just no clear biological connection to it. It's what people would call spirits back in the day. Like I'm just gonna use that term. I know that sounds like woo-woo magic to modern people, but that's what spirits are. They're identities you embody and assume.
But even then, like
that's what they are.
And that's the other thing with archetypes, like with Gustav. He probably wasn't even the one to first embody that archetype. There were probably people.
There probably were. They've just been lost to history.
Yeah.
But that identity, it still existed in abstract space, and it found a way to embody itself in the world again.
So, and I mean, honestly, that's the one thing about the hero archetype that's why the stories usually don't focus on their lives after they've completed the task they were set out to complete, because it's sad. It's not a good ending.
I guess.
Like there are stories where they do, but I'm saying that from a storytelling perspective, you want to have you don't want to finish off your story necessarily with the hero growing old and bitter, and now he's a widow, and all her kids don't give a shit about it anymore. Like, but
that's an important story though.
The sagas tend to do
that's that. That's a problem with modernity, is we don't tell that story. I mean, I hate The Last Jedi. I hate that movie, but the people should not be upset that they portrayed Luke Skywalker as like a bitter old man that that's an important story to tell. Like, again, that's exactly what happened to King Arthur. Like, he had his bastard inbred son, and his whole kingdom fell apart, and King Arthur became like this like really bitter old man, and he failed. He dies. He fails at the end. He dies in a stupid way. Like, that story's, I don't know. And it's like you were spurging over how people are mad at Jaime Lannister, like his fate. It's like, yeah. It's like, but you're right. Like, the point of him is he's a heroin addict. He fails. That's That's a tragedy. That's the point of tragedies. Is they're like warning stories. They're like, don't follow this person.
It's like
So, a question that's on everyone's in everyone's mind right now is Majora wearing a mask?
Majora, by Majora's nature, Majora can only be embodied through masks. I think that's a better way of putting it. Majora
Being embodied.
I mean,
Majora
the fact that that there is an identity of Majora, yes, Majora. The identity of Majora is a